So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session of Neutralpath's Capacity Building Program. The topic of today is social innovation and specifically citizen awareness and engagement strategies. So, of course, we all know that climate change is one of the biggest challenges of our time, and that's why it's really important to acknowledge that it will affect various communities in different ways. That's why achieving climate neutrality isn't just a technical or infrastructural challenge, but it's also a social challenge that requires real collaboration and inclusion in order to not leave anyone behind. And this is not just for mission cities, but for any city that wants to advance on its climate goals, should recognize the social dimension that is just as important as the other aspects. Because climate progress will not succeed unless people are actively involved in shaping the process and changes that will affect their daily lives, which also applies to the design of PCDs. In order to make them really sustainable, we cannot rely on top-down approaches. Instead, we must take into account the knowledge and real experience and perspective of various social groups, local stakeholders, inhabitants, and civil societies, in order to create solutions that really work for everyone. And even though many cities all over Europe really engage with their stakeholders, reaching climate neutrality demands a new and an extra level of interaction and co-creation. And this is exactly what we will touch upon today, as we will explore how social innovation and citizen engagement can help cities where people are not just beneficiaries, but they're also active participants in this process. So before we move on, we would like to briefly explain why this topic was chosen and why it's relevant for our cities. So a needs assessment was conducted specifically for the capacity building program to understand the key challenges that you are facing for the implementation of the PCTs. And that's how social innovation was one of the key topics that needed to be addressed. So the needs assessment showed that some of the barriers that the cities highlighted include a general lack of awareness about climate change and also a difficulty in obtaining acceptance and collaboration from specific stakeholders. It also showed that there are some needs that were highlighted include learning about the co-designing of climate solutions and fostering co-ownership of solutions. So based on this session was designed because addressing these challenges requires a new ways of thinking, engaging and collaborating. So which brings us to today's sessions, which we are focusing on practical strategies for citizen engagement. So this time we have invited our expert partners from Neutralpath who bring knowledge and experience in this field. So we're very excited to have with us Icons and 3 o'clock. Today we will start with a dive into the topic with a presentation by Filippo Collura from Icons. And then we will explore 3 different case studies from Eva Martinez-Cruz from Icons as well, but also with Eva Bo and Jennifer Krukenberg from 3 o'clock. So I think with that, we can start. And Filippo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hermione, and thanks to everyone for being here. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see it. Let me know if you don't. Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. Before starting the discussion about citizen engagement, just a brief introduction about myself and my colleague Eva. Of course, I'm Filippo Collura, for the one who don't know me yet. I'm a business and social innovation officer in Icons. And then there is also Eva who will present the second part. I don't know if you ever want to say something about yourself now or you prefer to say it later. Later, okay. Just a few words about Icons. We are involved in several projects, research and innovation projects, and regarding our unit, digital innovation unit, we are involved in 25 EU-funded projects, and we deal, let's say, every day with this kind of topic. So today, the main idea was to give you our experience and our knowledge on this topic. So, jumping into the topic of today, so citizen awareness and engagement strategies, I will give you a more theoretical approach, while Eva later will be more practical, giving you some case study example. And I would like to start by defining why citizen engagement matters. In general, without talking about a specific aspect, engagement and stakeholder engagement is an enabler factor that can help project achieve success. And in particular, in positive and clean energy district project, or let's say in project that deal with climate neutrality, it's an important aspect to be socially inclusive, as it can help the adoption rate of the solution and can help the citizen to be involved actively in all the activities that need to be done in order to be climate neutral, of course. The main areas, let's say the main highlights, because the main highlights, sorry, that we need to understand are the role of citizens, the importance of awareness engagement, and also the benefits of citizen engagement, as well as the challenges without citizen engagement. Starting from the role of citizen engagement, we can say that citizens, but in general stakeholders, have a specific role, depends on the activities you want to perform, but in specific citizens can play a multiple role as energy consumers, because they make daily choices about their energy use and they decide how they want to use energy, which sources to rely on, and whether to embrace new technologies or not, let's say. But they also can advocate for change, meaning that they can influence policies, they can support innovation and drive adoptions. The role of citizens is crucial in order to move forward positive clean energy districts, as they are, let's say, the target user of the energy solution, and without engaging them, there is the risk to a low uptake of this solution. Another important aspect of engagement awareness is that people should be aware and engage in all the processes and in the final goal in order to be empowered and feel, let's say, that their ideas, their feelings are taken into account. This is why awareness and engagement are two of the aspects central to this kind of activities, because they somehow bridge the gap between the solutions and the people. Because of course, moving toward energy efficiency, making cities more sustainable, relies of course on technologies, but it depends also on people. So this is why citizen engagement and awareness is an important aspect to be considered. In addition, with citizen engagement, we should have a sort of win-win for society, economy, and the environment. As I was saying before, the main benefits for the citizens are social benefits, and these activities can foster community cohesion, increase trust, inclusivity. But having citizen and stakeholder on board can help also foster economic benefits and environmental benefits, because the solutions are uptake and used by the people and the other stakeholders. So there will be environmental benefits, and of course this can boost local investment, having a sort of also economic benefit. So the main idea is that with citizen engagement, we of course are working towards social benefit, but it's a sort of overarching approach that can help also having economic benefits and environmental benefits. So it's a win-win approach that starts with social engagement and citizen engagement. But of course, without adopting let's say, a clear or a structured approach to citizen engagement, we can have some sort of challenges. As I was saying before, there can be low adoption rates, meaning that the solution implemented are not adopted by the people, and let's say they can impact the effect of the projects or the solution itself. They can be resistant to change, meaning that if we don't engage or inform people about all the process, we can force them to change, so we can risk that they don't want to change their behavior or the ideas toward the project, meaning that they can affect negatively the output of the project. And of course, we can also miss opportunity for co-creation. Again, excluding citizens, we, let's say, miss one perspective, and this is crucial in order to have a omni-comprehensive approach that take into account also citizens' needs. And of course, without participation, as I was saying before, if a cities or a project implements some solution, but the solutions are not taken into account by the people who let's say, I plan to use them, we can have some sort of also knowledge gaps or inefficiencies regarding the saving solution and etc. But let's say these are the main challenges a city can face without involving citizens in their approach. The second step is, let's say, more related not to citizen engagement awareness, but what do we mean with strategies? Because today, as you say before, we are talking about citizens engagement strategies. So the first step was, let's say, to define the citizens awareness engagement aspect, but now I would like to deal a little bit more in detail to what do we mean with strategy. And with strategy, as you can see here, we mean a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term or overall objective. And these on the right are the key elements, somehow, let's say, the ingredients we have to take into account while developing and designing a strategy. So a clear objective, a target audience, a set of methods and tools, and also being able to adapt and evaluate our strategy and adjust it according to the feedback we can receive throughout the process. Starting from the first, let's say, ingredient, the first step is to have a clear objective of what we want to achieve with our strategy, in this case, engagement strategy. For example, we want to increase awareness, we want to change behavior, we want to involve citizens. All these aspects are crucial also to evaluate our, let's say, success or not regarding the strategies we undertake. So the first step is for all the citizen engagement strategies to define which objective or objectives we want to achieve with a set of actions. In this case, let's say the main question each city should ask themselves is what we want to achieve. And of course, the key takeaway is that having a clear definition of the objectives can help us focus our approach, make it measurable, and also understanding potential feedback to adjust the strategy itself. The second ingredient, the second aspect to consider is the target audience identification, meaning that, okay, we want to achieve a specific objective, but who are we targeting? Who do we want to engage? This is another crucial aspect that each engagement strategy should consider. And of course, in a specific strategy, we can have different target audience with different objectives. For citizen engagement, we can have the example of target audience such as residents, so who directly benefit from the energy solution. We can have local municipalities who can, let's say, who can create policies and support the project. But having, let's say, a broader view, we can consider as target audience any key stakeholder, also energy provider, business and industries, or housing association. As I was saying before, there are different levels of benefits and different aspects of benefits. And in the same way, we have different kinds of stakeholders to be included. Today, we are focused more on citizens, so residents or in the community within the cities, but of course there are also other kind of stakeholders that must be considered somehow in each engagement strategy. The third aspect is method and tools, namely all the channels or approaches or methods you apply in order to reach your target and achieve your objective. For this presentation, Eva will detail the stakeholder engagement roadmap, which is a sort of planning methods in order to have an effective engagement strategies. But of course, there are other methods and tools which are, for example, workshop, can be public consultation, can be citizen panels. It depends also the methods and the tools selected on your objective and on the target you want to reach. And the last part is the evaluation adaptation. if we want to consider this sort of metaphor about climbing, if we want to reach our goal, which is our final objective, during the process, we might adapt our strategy based on the feedback we receive. So another key ingredient is to consider is the evaluation adaptation, meaning that we need to understand feedback from the actual targets in order to adapt, if needed, our strategy. The third, let's say, and last aspect to consider that somehow put all this information together is what do we mean with engagement? Because okay, we have this first part about the general topic and the general meaning of engagement awareness. We have the second part more related to what do we mean with strategy, so the key steps. And now for the engagement letter is the let's say the level of involvement we want people to have in our strategy. So we want, for example, we want to inform them, we want to consult them, we want to involve, and so on. So this engagement ladder can help us tailoring the first two aspects, understanding which method, which tools, which stakeholder, or which is the specific goal we want to reach with our strategy. Going more in detail, if we want to inform someone, this is one-way communication. And of course, the key output to consider could be public announcement, informational website, and the main expectation of this activity is to ensure clarity and accessibility of the information. And raise awareness of project goals and solution. So if we want to inform someone and a specific target, we need to take into consideration these main aspects. The second level of the engagement ladder, of course, so it's when we want to involve a little bit more our targets is to consult them. In this case, we have a two-way communication, meaning that we are going to ask them for feedback. And based on this feedback, we are going to adjust our strategies or taking further decisions. In this case, the key outputs could be service opinion polls or also focus group with stakeholders interviews just to gather feedback from them on specific topics or aspects of the project. The third level of the ladder is to involve. In this case, the main activity is to have an active collaboration and an ongoing dialogue with these stakeholders or citizens. And the main goal of this activity is to make them on board in the decision process and also, let's say, co-decide with them the main action to be undertaken in the project. The fourth level of engagement is to collaborate. In this case, the citizens or the stakeholder become partners of the technical sides, and they are going to co-create, co-design, and being together involved in the process. And this is really important for the development of specific solution that may target a specific user. So having user on board can help us tailoring these technologies and also fostering the further adoption of the technology themselves. Last one, so the last level of engagement is the empower, where stakeholder or citizens take a full ownership and the researcher or technician becomes some sort of support to the process. And the main idea, the main expectation for this sort of engagement goal is to transfer the control to the stakeholder for the long-term sustainability, is building community resilience, and for all the project, meaning this means that after the end of the project, all the activities undertaken could live and thrive also without a specific researcher or expert to support the process. So these are the five levels of engagement, which somehow put together the first step of today's presentation. And this is all from my side. I hope everything is clear. And we're going to have, I think, maybe a Q&A at the end of this if someone has some doubts. So I will leave the stage to Eva.
Thank you, Filippo. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Eva Martinez from ICOMS, and as Filippo said at the beginning, I'm part of the social innovation team at Icons Innovation Strategies. So following my colleague's presentation, I will walk through the engagement process of an ongoing project, Supershine, using it as a case study for this specific training. The next slide, please. Thank you. Supershine. Supershine is an ongoing 3 years horizon project focused on renovating social housing buildings in 3 cities, Riga from Latvia, Herning in Denmark, and Trieste in Italy to enhance energy efficiency and tackle energy poverty. The project is built upon different key principles, which you can see on the left of the screen in the blue square. So these principles include energy efficiency, affordability, decarbonization, integration of renewable strategy, promotion of sustainable energy behaviors, and respect for aesthetics and architectural quality. To guide by these principles, the project main areas of interventions are strengthening information and incentives, primarily for public and private property owners and tenants to encourage renovations, enhancing community participation and fostering sustainable energy behaviors among citizens, ensuring adequate and well-targeted funding by supporting, where possible, of course, innovative bottom-up financial solutions, and promoting sustainable renovation practices in the construction process. The next slide, please. Following this overview of the project's objective, I will present the engagement objectives of the project, which are the focus of today's training. The Supershine project has the following main engagement objectives, which are support the development of participatory processes with the aim to involve communities at the local level to reach renovation objective in the 3 social housing districts, design tailored engagement models to empower and engage residents with the aim to foster co-design and co-implementation of renovations, and establish a dialogue at the local level among all the relevant stakeholders to foster acceptance and wider adoption of interventions. Next, please. To effectively achieve this engagement objective, a well-defined strategy was essential. However, given the complexity and long duration of a renovation project like this, the approach adopted involved breaking down the process into distinct phases. So this division allowed each phase to be treated as a key moment, enabling the implementation of what we call tailored micro-engagement strategies with a specific objective at each stage. So in the Supershine project, the 5 key phases that were identified were phase 1, which is about awareness and launch of activities. So this phase focuses on informing the community about the project activities and objective. The second phase is about design of solutions, planning, etc. So this phase is about where the community is involved in shaping the renovation interventions. Then we have the renovation work stage where all the renovation takes place. So efforts center on preparing the community for all the changes, facilitating the adoption of renovations, and of course, keeping the residents informed. Then we had the handover phase. And this phase is about supporting the community and tenants in understanding the interventions and any newly introduced system that may have taken place. And then a final phase, which is the post-work phase, and focus on gathering feedback from the community to refine approaches and support future replication in other cities or in other districts. Next slide, please. To support pilot leaders in implementing this type of engagement strategy, a workshop internally within the consortium was conducting using the template that you can see displayed on the screen, and it's the template that my colleague Filippo was talking at the beginning, the engagement roadmap. This template and consequently the workshop was divided into two sections, so two blocks. So the first exercise focused on defining overly the technical solutions and renovation activities to be implemented, outlining the overall social objective that each pilot aim at, identifying key stakeholder groups and the potential roles that they may play throughout the project, and anticipating potential challenges that the district might face when conducting the engagement activities. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the initial exercise set the stage for the second part of the workshop, where the engagement roadmap was explored in detail. So for each phase, specific goals were identified, the level of engagement that needed to be reached, along with potential engagement activities, methods to be used, a timeline for implementation, key stakeholders to involve. So by the end of the workshop, each pilot had a clear engagement roadmap to guide their actions throughout every phase of the renovation project. Next slide, please. So now we will take a closer look at two different pilot projects, what they did specifically, what the engagement strategy they implement. The first pilot we will focus on is the Italian one, the Trieste pilot, which consists of 8 buildings with high levels of energy efficiency, and its redevelopment plan, which centers on the demolition and reconstruction of these buildings. So this initiative aims to transform the area into a modern, energy efficient and socially inclusive residential community. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in the first phase, what the Trieste Lighthouse did during the first phase, they focus on conducting a local stakeholder mapping as a preparatory step to identify key informants and participants. This process had two main objectives. First, to engage both formal institutions and informal community groups. And second, to identify what they call the alpha users, who are individuals who might be highly interested in the project and also possess the charisma to mobilize the broader community. This stakeholder mapping led then to a kickoff event, which was held to introduce the project, and a social acceptance survey was conducted to gain insights into local attitudes towards the plan interventions. This survey was crucial in identifying key concerns and priorities, which actually helped also to shape the focus of the future engagement activities. So it was a very important moment and also strategy to conduct this social acceptance survey during this phase. Next slide, please. So in phase two, just to remind you, it was about co-design of solutions. So during this phase, several co-design sessions were organized with three key objectives. Co-design sessions on the external appearance of the building, the green areas and public spaces, but also on potential neighborhood services centered around the concept of a 5-minute city, which aim to improve internal connectivity and accessibility beyond just transportation, and making, of course, the neighborhoods more efficient and human-centered. While we don't have time to present all the co-design activities that took place, I would like to highlight the session that focused on developing neighborhood services. This session, or the objective of this session, was to co-design these neighborhood initiatives aimed at fostering collaboration, generating ideas, and supporting a strategic planning for the implementation of the services. Potential service providers and community intermediaries were invited to participate. They were the two main stakeholder groups invited to this session, and the session followed this structure. Project was introduced and the context was set in. So project partners provided an overview of the project goals. Then a facilitated brainstorming session was conducted, guided by stimulus questions to explore community needs and service gaps. And then it was followed by a SWOT analysis conducting a structured evaluation of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to inform a strategic planning. Now I would like to focus on more specifically on the tools and methods that were used in this session. So structured discussions were conducted to facilitate the conversation, supported by these stimulus questions to guide and also enrich the dialogue. A collective reasoning approach was adopted, creating a space for diverse stakeholders to co-create solutions, to discuss about implementing such solutions. And also a SWOT analysis was used as a co-design tool. It was used to map an internal and external factors influencing the project, align expectations, and also establish realistic implementation strategies. As you can see on the screen, this was let's say all deposits is a photograph of the actual SWOT analysis that was conducted at the pilot. Next slide, please. Okay, about the outputs and the outcomes, key takeaways from this session. The approach adopted foster inclusive participation, bridging technical expertise with also the community experience while providing a practical roadmap for decision making. One of the most important takeaways was the realization that co-design is not just about generating ideas, but also about evaluating their feasibility and long-term impacts. In other words, engaging the community in idea generation is crucial, but equally important is assessing also the feasibility of this idea. So in a co-design session, we want to generate ideas with our community, but we also want to evaluate how feasible these ideas are and what the long-term impact of these ideas will be. The next slide, please. Thank you. Now we will move into the engagement strategy of other pilots, the Riga Latvian pilot. This project consists of 25 multi-apartment residential buildings from the Soviet era, along with one newer multi-apartment building. And it includes a total of 1,283 apartments designated for affordable housing, many of which face significant energy inefficiency challenges. So as you may understand, this is a very big pilot and challenging renovation project. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how the Riga pilot approach community engagement? This pilot tackled the challenge by actively listening to resident concerns and needs, leveraging informal community interactions to establish strong networks in a non-intimidating setting. During the first phase, a kickoff event was held to establish initial networks with active citizens. Then they conducted a community-led session to foster dialogue between public authorities and residents, while also gathering a community feedback on the renovation project. An energy retrofit session was also organized to provide guidance on building renovations and introduce innovative financial tools. The next, please. Thank you. So this was for the first phase. During the second phase of the renovation project, the consign of solutions, 3 key sessions were held, enabling residents to actively participate in shaping both the physical and social transformation of the district. So I will go into detail of what was done for each of the 3 sessions. During the first activity of the first session, a working tour was organized, during which residents were encouraged to photograph problematic areas and suggest improvement. They were then invited to submit and vote on proposals using a Latvia digital platform designed for this specific project. So one of the key outputs was the launch of this digital platform designed to support community-led urban planning while strengthening trust and engagement, of course, among residents. The next slide, please. Okay, the next session focus on reviewing and refining the proposals submitted to the digital platform. This activity facilitated collaborative decision making and reinforced long-term community engagement. And then we move to the third, to the next slide, please. No, the next. Okay, yes, great. So in the final session, and based on the previous outputs of the two sessions already conducted, identify challenges were discussed to explore new solutions, and based on the interventions proposed in previous activities, specific roles and responsibilities were assigned to all the residents involved. So the main outputs included visual materials that reflected the community-shaped vision for the future district, a strength sense of ownership and historical connection with the district, and the recognition of the need also for clear responsibility structures and communication channels also to sustain this engagement. So this is all from the Supershine project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think now we can move on to the case studies from 3 o'clock. Eva, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Hermione. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share the second case study. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. So, well, first of all, my name is Eva. For the ones that doesn't know me, I don't know if there are any member here like not participating in Neutralpath activities, but just in case. So I'm a co-founder of 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock is a social innovation agency based in Paris, where role in Neutralpath is coordinating and managing the living labs and working on different areas as engaging and stakeholder engagement in the labs, but also governance models and contributing to the social assessment of the technologies. So we're here today to present two case studies. The first one is this one. So it's the engagement strategies to test a new e-scooter in 3 different countries. And it's to show a clear example with practical applications on why engagement is necessary and needed. So the thing is, new technologies and services are developed in cities at an unprecedented speed. We have a boost of different technologies and different actors developing a lot of solutions, and how to ensure that they are a good solution for everybody, and they are not, or they do not generate new problems linked to the use of space in cities or safety. The thing is how to ensure this win-win-win, as I think Filippo said, for the citizens and the environment. And also why we thought that it could be interesting for our cities in Neutralpath is because we because mobility surveys are strongly linked to climate neutrality. Second is because we used to co-design in here to develop new solutions involving citizens. And third, because urban engagement was essential in this case for the success of the service. If I understood correctly, so the questions are after. So please note your questions and I'll be glad to answer them later. So what do we did here? We had a project H2020 financing 2021. It lasted 2 years and it was to develop the service of this e-kick scooter. So it's 3-wheel e-kick scooter with nice features related to safety and coupled with an inflatable helmet designed by Inflate 8. So we have these two companies, Punch Torino and Inflate 8, developing these two products, and we mix them together to develop a service. We structure it in four steps. So first, design the pilots. So how to build the different pilots in 3 cities with 3 different contexts. Second one, identify different user profiles for the service. So understanding behavior, we wanted to explore acceptability also and willingness to pay. Third, the test and validation. The thing was not only testing the technology for and speed and performance and battery level, but also working on the business model and the different alternatives to propose the service. And finally, with all the information gathered, design the urban mobility service. So first, we put everybody on the same table, designing the different services in the different countries. So we build a case for offering the e-kick scooter in a university in Sweden as a shared service only for inside the university. Second case, we use it as an integrated service in the city in Italy as a global service for the mobility service in the city. And the third one was an e-kick scooter service for a company in Belgium as a company car, as an e-kick scooter for the employees. And we set with the different stakeholders the strategy for each of the cases. And what happened here is that we identified the same barrier as you found together. It's this conflicting interest between key industries. So for this, co-design was essential. These meetings, putting everybody in the table to discuss the different things, to foster dialogue, to use negotiation skills for sure, and facilitating the whole process with neutral actors was also very important in this case. Not people only for the city or not for the companies, but a neutral actor facilitating the whole process. Step 1, so we dive in understanding behavior. So in these cases, we have 3 different populations in the 3 different pilots. So in the university, we have young students with different characteristics in Sweden. We have a strongly senior male engineers in Brussels, in this engineering company, and in Italy we had a similar population than in Brussels. So in each of the cases we had very different profiles and travel habits related to also the cities, the configuration of the cities, and climate conditions and different habits to go to work and commuting. So we analyze all the data and we identify different user profiles in the different pilots. So what we identified here was the resistance to behavioral change from individuals, again, similarly as you. So the identification here of user profiles help us identify leverage for change with the different profiles identified. So we used it for the recruitment of the different persons to test the e-kick scooter, and also for the exchanging during the testing. What happens is that this user research, yes, is expensive. Yes, it takes time to do it in different cases and analyze all the data, but it was worth it to analyze these user profiles and know more about them and know these different drivers and habits and leverage for change and to use them for the discussions and the focus group we did. So we started, once we had all the profiles, we started the pilot phase. So for these, we built the user journey, meaning that we established when we were going to contact the users. So the users registered for the pilot, and we had, if I remember correctly, it was 2.5 months for the testing, and they could use the e-scooter for a week. So for commuting or for just a normal mobility, for like going shopping or to buy groceries or these type of things. And so so we established when do we have to contact for the first time as a reminder, come to pick up the e-scooter, how was the travel today, to register all the information on the logbook that we created to make it easier for users to give feedback. And finally, at the end, when they have to drop off the e-scooter and do a survey on how was the whole experience. We had to work on the certification and insurance for all this testing of a new vehicle in the city, compliance with rules for sure, and security and safety measures, just to avoid problems. And we had 1 or 2 accidents with the e-scooter for sure. So we had to ensure that everything was controlled and safe for the users. The logbook app was another important thing to make it easy for users to give feedback, and also to encourage these to obtain feedback from different users. We use different methods, so social media contest, reminders with emails, even as text through the different in different languages in the different pilots, to use them as reminders to get as much feedback as possible. So again, similar barrier as yours, difficulty obtaining acceptance and collaborations from users. Of course, people is busy and they are living their lives, and how we make this case interesting for them and to participate with us to design the service. So we use these 3 things that work well. The first one, it was the co-design process. So we identified that people that was invested in the service since the beginning and in the discussions for the co-design was more willing to participate in the whole process and in the testing and everything. So co-design was important. Second, we offer incentives. So we work with local vouchers from local shops and contests to activate local ecosystem. So people going to these shops also discover our services, and it was a sort of a win-win situation. And third, this segmentation of user profiles was also very useful for the whole process. Finally, so we had all the data that we needed, and we started studying all the data, crossing data from different sources and analyzing it from qualitative but also quantitative data and percentage statistics. And we built all, we put this all together, and we built the business model, so the service with the different actors and seeing the value added for different actors. Thanks. Can you mute? Fantastic. So, for example, things that we used for was the willingness to pay from the different actors that allow us to set a better price, more adapted through the willingness to pay. We identify the reasons to buy it and the reasons not to buy it. So we use them to improve the service in the end for the different cases. So lessons learned for Neutralpath, for testing the different technologies, but also to engage in the living labs in the different cities, was for us was key to have an active local partner. So there was a local entity in each of the cases, a company or a university that knows the environment, that talks their language, and that it's committed. So in some cases, we have very active, very motivated persons. So in these cases, the pilot went super well. So we achieved more than 100 or 120 participants for the testing. And in others, this person was less motivated. And so this was key for recruiting and engaging with citizens. Second, how to boost user feedback. So this online logbook that we designed for each of the tests to gather feedback from users to make it easy for them to answer using QR codes in different areas and in the e-kick scooter, and with regular reminders allow us to gather sufficient feedback for the process. Choose the right social media. So at the beginning, we thought that an Instagram contest could be interesting, but for example, for the senior male engineers population wasn't the most adapted one. So we had to change right away. And the importance of user research in this case, the analysis of local behavior in the pilots was very different from one country to another. Their perception of climate change, their habits for commuting was very, very different. And so the approach to build the case and to talk to them had to build also accordingly for this. And finally, as I said before, the incentives and the contest to propose a win-win situation, because people are busy in general. So how to propose things that are engaging, also interesting, also for them to generate value and say, here we have something interesting, come and see us in a way that they also can win something. And this is it. I hope it was clear, not too fast, but with the short timing, I wanted to say a lot of things. So I'll be happy to answer your questions later.
Thank you very much, Eva. And I think we can move on to Jennifer.
Yes, I hope this is working now.
Yes, indeed.
Can you see the slides? Okay, yes. Fabulous. So same as Eva, I'm working at 3 o'clock. I think most people know me or we know each other, but just in case we don't know each other, I'm Jennifer Krückelberg, and I'm the user research lead at 3 o'clock. Eva already has explained the type of work we do, but also apart from Neutralpath, I'm also involved in another project, which is called One Planet. And the main goal I have for this presentation is to kind of give you inspiration for different activities that you could do in Neutralpath to engage with citizens, but also to think about the co-creation processes that you might want to implement. So the project is not in an urban context, but I still think there are a lot of lessons that you could apply to Neutralpath, and I will also make the links to Neutralpath while I'm talking. So what is One Planet? It's also a Horizon 2020 project. It's still ongoing, so we don't have all the results yet, but it will end in October. And in the project, we are mainly focusing on stakeholders that are citizens, policymakers, professionals that work in different industries, mainly water, energy, and food, and also researchers. And by engaging them, what we really want to do is create a more sustainable future in general for the African continent. And we have 3 case studies. One of them is in Mali. You can see them on the map in case you don't know what it is. The other one is in the border between Tanzania and Malawi, and the other one is in South Africa. And like Neutralpath, we're also having a strong focus on clean energy, but as I said, more in the context of water, energy, and food, which is called the WEF nexus. So how these three elements work with each other and kind of influence each other is the focus of this project. But also a lot of focus is placed on how can we actually engage citizens and communities in these type of processes, and how can we help them to drive change in response to environmental and socioeconomic challenges, which are felt a lot on the African continent. And also what we do is we have a very strong focus on co-creation and social awareness. And I think, as you can see, the stakeholders that we talk with are very similar to the ones we have in Neutralpath. And of course, the focus on co-creation and social awareness, I think, is the biggest overlaps that we have. And I think also one thing that we can identify is that there's a lot of common aims between One Planet and Neutralpath. One of them is breaking down administrative silos. So, for example, in One Planet, as I said, water, energy, and food. When it comes to policymakers, these are usually placed in different departments. I know from cities that you have sometimes similar issues, that different responsibilities are in different departments. So breaking down these silos and encouraging conversation between different people inside the municipalities can be a challenge. So this is what we have in common. Then, of course, the raising of citizen awareness, co-creation of solutions, but also kind of fostering ownership, that people feel like they have some stake in these solutions or in what is happening with climate change in general, but also more specifically to the aims of the project itself. And then another focus that is shared is the activation of local expertise to further the aims of the project. And as I said, both projects focus on promoting clean energy production. So just to give you an example of what we have done in One Planet when it comes to co-designing, we have been trying to develop a web-based tool to model the interactions between water, energy, and food. And for this, we did several workshops. This were one-day workshops each in the 3 case studies, but also we did one in Kenya. And the audience for this were different stakeholders, so mainly policymakers, energy professionals, researchers, and citizen groups. And as I said, the overlap with Neutralpath, I believe, here is really the idea of trying to co-create ownership and interest in what kind of technical solutions are being developed, activating local expertise, like what we see in our living labs as well, is that we really try to bring in different expertise and try to develop new ideas on how we can bring forward more clean energy. And then, yeah, I think we have that covered. So what we did in the workshop in the different case studies was to, we identified pre-hand different features that could be introduced in this web tool. So the web tool would model the flow between water, energy, and food. And so we first presented the different features that we thought were good, and then we presented them to the group of people who actually were working in these areas or who were affected by this locally. And then we worked with them using like canvases and workshop materials to identify which features they thought were actually important to them. So we came in with a preconceived notion, but we wanted to really have feedback to understand which features would be actually useful for the ones that should be really developed and should be included in the tool in One Planet. And then also we asked people about ideas about how they thought the user interface should be. So when they go to the web tool, what would they think about what would be interesting features? How would they want to filter the information and so on? So we had very interesting discussions between different people. For example, we had people who were like small farmers who engaged with us, who explained their situation. There were people from the municipalities, but also people who were working on a national level. So there was a lot of discussion and interesting exchanges about the different challenges that each stakeholder faced. But it also helped to make people aware of other people's problems, so to say, and really try to act and try to find common solutions and not just try to work against each other. So I think this was one of the main outcomes that we had from the workshops. And then we then, based on what we found in the workshops, we tried to create solutions based on the feedback and the lived experience that we have from the participants. As I said, we're still in the process of developing this web tool in the project, but we are going to do another round of testing with the same stakeholders. So also what is good to have like different workshops that follow up on each other. So you already have a group of people who keep being involved. So you don't have to recruit each time new people, but you kind of work with the same group and you can develop a really nice core group of people who are engaged, who are interested, and who also follow the aims of your project and who are interested into implementing or helping you out as well. And this can also be done by providing frequent updates and giving really people easy ways to engage. I think Eva also explained this, like giving people, QR codes, something that can have to scan instead of telling, here's our website. People might not go there. And maybe also making them sign up to newsletters or other ways of engagement while they're still in the room, because it's hard to reach out to people afterwards. And I think this is, I think this could be also interesting for the living labs that we have. So potential adaptations that I see for the co-creation that we did in One Planet could be that really, again, like using this mixed expertise that we have in the living labs and the CN labs for co-creation activities and involving citizens as well directly. So for example, really organizing co-design sessions on specific topics, and also helping them to test it afterwards. So not just come in once, but come in several times, so that there's like a process that people can also follow and they feel engaged. So instead of feeling like people are coming in and taking my time and my information and then doing something else with that. And another way could also be to have more playful ways of co-creation, for example, using community-driven visual campaigns. So for example, somewhere in the PCEDs, or if you don't have a PCED yet, in the neighborhood where you envision the PCED, you could use, for example, murals, or you could do showcasing processes for photo contests that people kind of contribute themselves to how they see the PCED develop, or how they kind of can maybe also co-document the process while they're there. And another idea that could be interesting is to also co-designing ideas for citizens, ways of making energy data more visible in their everyday spaces. So either by showing meters or in buildings or somewhere publicly where people pass, so that people also kind of are reminded that something is happening, and maybe having something more than solar panels that people don't really encounter in their everyday life, by kind of giving everyday reminders where people pass on a day. So this, I think, are potential adaptations for ideas to have like co-creation sessions in Neutralpath. Then the next part would be on what we did on citizen awareness in One Planet. So of course, the goal is to make people more aware of the repercussions of climate change and what is going on and how it's working, because all these topics can be very, in a way, scary, but also very complex, and they're not so easy to explain. And it's also not so easy to explain how this actually affects people on the daily, let's say. So the main methods that we had was to use, so we're developing this capacity building platform, which is the One Planet Knowledge Hub. And we're also using a serious game. So these are both ICT online solutions. And the second method is the climate sprint workshops that we did. I will focus more on these instead of the Knowledge Hub. And these are really tailored activities to citizens, students, civil society organization as well. And again, I think these different integrations of ICT tools or like a bit more creative co-creation methods could be also giving some insight for activities that you might want to plan to engage citizens as well. So this is just some points on how to encourage citizen awareness, just some reminders or some steps. I think what is really important is to really prioritize interactive ways over lectures or talks, something where people are not just giving information, but they have to kind of like work for the information or kind of really like engaged with what is being presented or what the topic is. Then the second step would be also to encourage self-reflection. So what is my implication in all of this, but without posing individual blame. And I think it's often what can also happen with climate change is like when we reflect on our own behavior, it's not helpful if we pose blame or too much pressure on individuals, but rather encourage them on small steps that they might be able to take instead of building up too much guilt. And then another step could be to really give concrete and simple ways how you can do things in your everyday life that are not too complicated and that are really feasible. And then another way, as I said, is to really make engagement with the project and with other resources easy and not take too much time. So the climate sprints that we developed we at 3 o'clock developed and we implemented in One Planet. We did 2 of these, one in Nairobi in Kenya and another one in Nelspruit in South Africa. The idea behind the climate sprints is to have communication about climate science in a very playful way, and also to sensitize people to climate change and encourage them to do simple lifestyle changes, but also to equip participants with tools to become more active in general. So the climate sprint has 3 different steps. One is an interactive quiz, climate fresk. I'm not sure if anyone has heard about that. If you have, please let me know, because then I won't get into much detail. I'm not sure how known this is around Europe. And the last step is calculate your carbon footprint type of exercise. And each of these activities has a different aim. So with the quiz, it's really to like a starter to get you into the topic. The climate fresk is a more extended exercise where people really understand the causes and effects of climate change between different factors. And the last one, to calculate the carbon footprint, is again to make people reflect on their own behaviors, but at the same time give them tools to take action and not feel not too bad about what's happening in the world, so to say. And so this, again, is like more of an inspiration for you of different activities. It's not necessary to do each of these activities together. They can also be done separately, but it's more to give you inspiration of what you could maybe do yourself in the CN Labs in Neutralpath. So for the interactive quiz, we usually try to adapt the quizzes to the local challenges. So what we did in Nairobi and in South Africa was to really highlight the challenges that are happening where people are. So we asked, for example, what percentage of the world's energy related CO2 emission to date come from Africa. And we asked people what they thought. So this was a way for people to reflect on what's happening, but at the same time, they learned something. So, if the 50% thought it would be 5%, and they learned that the impact of the African continent is actually quite lower, it was interesting for them, but at the same time, they could be interacting with the question on their own time, and they could reflect by themselves instead of someone telling them, 3% of the impact of the African continent is how much it is. So, and it's also a group activity because people are in the room, they can discuss the findings together, and also the moderator usually should encourage a type of discussion about the different answers. And again, it's important to highlight that it's okay if people have the wrong answer or if they didn't know about something. So for how could this be used in the Neutralpath? Again, it can be helpful to have a playful way of raising greater awareness and learning about climate effects and also the local implications. And also what is good about an interactive quiz is that the platforms are really easy to use. You don't have to do much, and people can usually just scan a code to start the quiz. And also it can be adapted to any topic. So you could use it to ask people about how they feel about the transformation of their neighborhood, how much they know about the new technologies that are implemented in the neighborhoods, or what they in general what they think. So it's really very flexible depending on what kind of event you have. And it's really like a good icebreaker and starter for any type of event you might have. So if you have, for example, an information day, where you want to show what kind of technologies are being applied in the PCEDs, you can get people to get more engaged, but also you could think about the idea of a quiz in a way that you go offline, and you can also organize like a guided scavenger hunt, a bit what we did in Dresden during the open day. You can do this either with grown-ups or with children, but I think in general the quiz or the idea of a quiz can be really helpful. Then I'm going to the climate fresk. So nobody said that I know what it is, I think, so far. So this is a quite established methodology, and it's based on scientific facts. It was established by a Frenchman, Cédric Ringenbach, and it's a collaborative workshop. So people are being put into groups, and they are presented certain facts about climate change. For example, like human activities, carbon sinks, and so on. And again, instead of having someone who stands there to explain all these different effects, the group works towards understanding it into putting cards next to each other. So they're like 42 science-based cards, and people place them on the table, as you can see, and then they shift around the cards to put them into cause and effect chains. So people will discuss each card. They will think about in a group, where can we put this? And there's a moderator who, of course, helps. But in the end, it's the group who works together to understand the causes and effects of climate change. And again, it's about trying to understand the logical collections between all these different cards and climate effects. And it's also a way to really emotionally and intellectually engage people, to also have discussions afterwards, to summarize why people put certain cards in a certain way, what do they think about what's happening, how do they reflect also on their own decisions, but also what kind of collective climate action do they think is needed, so also beyond themselves. And yeah, as I said, it's a mainly action-oriented approach as opposed to a more passive one. And for Neutralpath, I think it's also something that could be used maybe as an onboarding activity in the CM lab. So if you have citizens coming over, you could like do a climate fresque with them. And they could be, you know, like they get into the topic, but it's also a good way to have like bonding activities between the groups, especially if people come back to the living labs. And it's also something that you could do for other events, like organizing fresque in a PCED or in the neighborhoods or for different buildings and so on. So it's a quite flexible approach. However, you will need someone who knows how to do a climate fresque, but there's a lot of ways to become a facilitator online. There's a lot of resources that I will put at the end of the presentation, so you can look that up for yourself if you're interested. Then the last step of the climate sprints that we do is calculating individual carbon footprints. So as you can see, this is what we did in South Africa. And what we did, we used certain cards that have details about, like, for example, how much does a short haul flight, like how much CO2 does a short haul flight take per return flight, or how much does it, I'll keep on saying how much carbon does it take to eat, for example, steak every day? So very everyday things. So how much do I spend carbon when I use my car to go to university every day or to go to work? And so this is something that you might have to prepare. So either you have to prepare some cards beforehand that state all these different facts and numbers, or you like create a presentation and you use like an online calculator. They're also quite useful. They also already exist, and you can really start the activity by first explaining what is a carbon footprint. Not everybody might know that, and then you go on to letting people calculate their own carbon footprint based on what they do in their everyday life. And then later on, you also encourage them to do a pledge. So, for example, I take one thing that I have in my everyday consumption of carbon, and there's one thing that I can maybe reduce. Maybe I don't buy new clothes every day. Maybe I don't eat meat every day. So very small things, but people can do a pledge of one thing that they want to change in their everyday. And again, in these discussions also, it's usually important to not blame everything on individual actions, but just to make people aware that this has also some effect. And for the climate fresque in Neutralpath, as I said, of course, people are learning something. They are doing not the climate fresque. Sorry, this is wrong. The calculation of of the carbon footprint. So people can do this maybe as well as a collaborative way to calculate the carbon footprint of the whole PCED. So not just like individualize it, but maybe it's also something that you can do in your labs to understand what has changed, what has been stayed the same since we have the PCD. Do we need to look out for this? So it's maybe something you could also think about. And again, you could always do this individual calculations at public events or whenever you meet in a lab, if you're interested in that. So this is all from my side, and thanks so much for listening. I know it's a lot of information, but I'm happy that we're having this conversation. Thanks.
Thank you so much to all our presenters, and particularly for making these connections with Neutralpath and pointing out the inspiration that the cities can implement. So now it's time for our Q&A, so time to give the floor to our cities, so feel free to ask any questions that you have to our speakers. Yes, please, Roland.
Thank you for the presentations. I also see that there are a lot of examples of individual solutions and individual awareness. For instance, the calculation on the carbon footprint. But the difficulty we have in our living lab in Ghent is that we are searching for a collective approach. For instance, the development of a district heating network. And in this kind of complex projects, it's very difficult to for instance, to explore a prototype like Eva mentioned with the e-scooter. Then you can try and see the acceptance of the user. But for the development of a district heating network, you have to envision a future without the possibility to test it out. But there is a catch-22 because we need the engagement of the citizens living around this place or potential users of the district heating network. We need their engagement to calculate the possibilities and the financial business case, because we have to know what is the potential ratio of people that will take off the heat. So that's the complexity we are facing in Ghent. And in my opinion, I think we have a lot of strategies about uptaking information, awareness, uplifting awareness, but to co-create complex collective solutions, it's difficult to have the co-creative and co-design approach, because it's really difficult also on the technical level to engage citizens in this kind of discussions. Although in Ghent we managed to have some of the citizens of the neighborhood to engage them in these discussions, but we have to say they are not representative for the area or the district. That are the people who are already very convinced of the climate challenge. So my question is how to implement this kind of citizen engagement in collective solutions.
It is an open question and not easy to answer. I guess in this case, what I would do is to reduce the complexity a lot, because if not, the citizens are not going to participate nor understand it. Like, even if you're talking to engineers, sometimes it's complicated to explain. So what I would do is to decomplexify the service as much as possible, to do it like with schemes and easy to understand for users, and like focus on what it's impacting them. So what will be their changes, like from now to later? And maybe on the awareness side, maybe play on the like imagine day without electricity. Like the current heating system is based on what? On gas or electricity?
Yes, yeah, gas.
Yes. So imagine a new war is like simulating maybe scenarios, or new war is coming, gas is super expensive and you cannot afford it. And like seeing all the differences from one day before and one day after, and seeing the impact that these different things have, like trying to push, like to make them realize the benefits of the new solutions. And also on this CO2 analysis, like it is important to make them realize that these new solutions are, of course, better on this new CO2 analysis of the PCD, but like you can come with an analysis of like what the solution changes, and then their individual CO2 prints, how much this sums up or not to the whole PCD area. It is mostly focused on giving an or I think it's called orders of magnitude, at least in French, but it is to make them realize how much it is to take the bus or the car or a plane or buying things.
Yeah, it's not necessary. I mean, again, like it's also a little bit because sometimes you say, okay, this is so like how much energy something needs is not very visual sometimes. So I think with calculating these things, it just makes you kind of aware a bit about the numbers. What is the impact? What is really like energy intensive? Sometimes it's also something in your everyday life you're maybe not aware does need as much energy or what or so on. So I think sometimes it's just a measurement that makes it a bit more relatable to, okay, I have to take the car, whatever, every day to go to work. So I have an idea what that means. So I think it's sometimes not necessarily to say I have to reduce my carbon footprint, but it's sometimes helping to just put the numbers into perspective. So I think from this perspective as well, it's maybe more helpful to engage people in that sense.
And regarding heating, we have some cards specifically for this, like changing 2-3 degrees in the heating system. It changed a lot on the impact of your CO2 print per year, also on the efficiency of the insulation or windows. So there's a specific part for heating that makes them realize how important it is, the heating in the CO2 print.
And maybe last comment. I don't want to talk at you, Ronald. I'm sorry. But I think sometimes it's also helpful to see this as like continued different actions, you know? So I think, something maybe like it's maybe not necessarily the whole thing, but maybe this is, people who have no concept of it. Maybe you start with this and then, so I think
I
it's
was
not
diving into the most complex challenge we are facing because we are doing a lot of other things by engaging people in a very and connecting to people with their real needs and the real needs they exposed. So there is also a group of people in the district working on a very low, how do you say, for instance, on mobility by walking instead of biking or using a car. So it's a little there's all easy things to talk about, but the complex energy question and solutions, that is more difficult to make a real collaboration with citizens.
But maybe this is also okay. I don't know. Maybe there's like some aspect of it that citizen can contribute, and maybe they don't have to contribute to the whole solution. Maybe this is something that maybe people who are technically apt to do it, and maybe but it's like some input I think they can give, even if it's just a small input. Maybe it doesn't have to be like co-creating the whole solution, but maybe I don't know, like different parts. Maybe you can chop it up in different actions.
Yeah, I have a question relating to Roland. As he already said, we are engaging some citizens in our living lab, but it's not the most representative group. And then I don't engage too much with citizens as I'm more on the technical part. But then I heard some people saying like, oh, there are some citizens in the living lab, we know about it, but it are the green ones. And yeah, they believe in all their solutions. But when we have to work with the district heating grid, then we're out of here, we don't want it. How do you engage those kind of people and make them aware that it's important, as they just don't want to take time to learn about it, as they don't see the use of it?
But again, good question. So for sure, it's easier to speak with people that are already concerned and aware of climate change and are motivated to spend their time in this. And there's this thing of user research that we use to identify what are the things that can you can use to engage with them. So you identify different aspects that can be that you can leverage to play with them, because for them maybe it's interesting, these incentives. And so the best thing is to do a contest and come here and play, and you have free food, and then you can participate. So the thing is to identify which are the things interesting for people that, like, you can do this trade-off. So I offer you this and you offer me your time. Because in the end they are like busy and they don't care and maybe don't know like anything about this. So it is how you can like achieve this point of, hey, I find this thing that it's maybe interesting for you. Maybe so like do something with the kids, and then while the kids are playing, you can use their time. Or maybe it's just free food. It like sometimes it's just a tiny thing, but these tiny things work.
I would also say one last thing. I think it depends on why people are resistant, I would say. I mean, some people might be because they're not informed. Other people have very strong ideological opinions about things. And I think it would be also important. I don't think, like, maybe not everyone who's not interested in it has the same reasons for not being interested in it. So I think also understanding why they're hesitant can help you to address this better, you know. So as Eva said, I think because you have different groups, especially in your case, I think understanding specifically what makes them hesitant, or I don't know, not liking it, I think can also help you to understand how to convince them in a way, you know, or how to engage them. Some people need just some time. Some people are just don't like when things change for no particular reason. And I think maybe showing them that it's not a scary thing, sometimes it's just an emotional reaction that people have, is also maybe good. Like keeping them long-term engaged is also important, because some people need to be approached more than once, I would say.
I would also say that it's important, or could be a good strategy, to tailor the type of activities to the specific groups you need to engage with. So if you know that there are some resistances with certain group of people, you know, you may have the same engagement type of objective with all your stakeholders, but you may tailor the activities you want to have with them, because you understand, you know, what they need, and then you target your activity to that specific group. Like, for instance, in Supershine, they I couldn't have the time to explain it, but when they were designing the external appearance of the building, they had to reach, I mean, they reach children, they reach old people, you know, and all the type of more or average type of residents. So they use different engagement activities depending on the needs, the level of knowledge, you know, the level of digital literacy as well. So these kind of things can be important to take into account also.
I'll give the floor to Eira for the last question, because I'm cautious of the time, but perhaps I would encourage the rest of the cities to use the chat if you want to put a question, and then we can follow up on this. Eira?
Thank you. Maybe not even so much of a question, but just to like take part also in the conversation. But yeah, as most of you, if you're any familiar with the Vanda case, the Aviapolis issues in citizen engagement are very different, because we have so few citizens or like residents in the area for now. But actually from Eva's presentation, sort of and then others also refer to similar characters, like there was the concept of alpha user, which also Roland kind of mentioned, that there's these people who are already engaged. We have similar thing in Aviapolis, and for now, until now, I've sort of felt like, yes, maybe we shouldn't target them anymore, though we know that there is like a few, maybe couples who are always active, wanting to know what happens, but maybe we could turn it into rather like a benefit, not only to like be sure that at least we have some guests coming, but rather to work with them, because if we know that they actually want actively to make change there, they might actually reach some neighbors and citizens that the city doesn't so well. So maybe we could think of new strategies for that. Regarding the Ghent things, I just wanted to mention, you probably are familiar, but in case you're not, I can't remember which webinar it was, but there was from a completely different project, but this Leuven, how do you pronounce it in Belgium, the city Leuven, they had a project, I guess, urban greening project, where they really went from door to door. And of course, it was only because of the project they had the resources, but that sounded like if only you have the resources, that would be like probably a very good approach, because then you actually hear what people think that are currently wrong and where they want change, and then you can start to address the things. So that sounded like they've made some change. Yeah. Otherwise, thank you. I got a lot of good ideas also for the possible open days and so on, to like what kind of activities to come up with.
Okay, so before we close off, we would like to share the next steps from our side. So we will reach out by email with the follow-up information, including the presentations and the recording. So we will need from everyone to fill in an online survey, which will help us monitor the KPIs. And then only for the city coordinators, we will need you to fill in the post-webinar assessment file that will be sent as an attachment. And the next session, we will reach out via email on when it will take place. So this was it for today. Thank you so much to our speakers for the presentation, and also thank you very much to all of you, the city representatives, for your active participation. Have a nice day and see you soon.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.